Good morning. I got a video request specifically for the news reports that we'll be getting this week. Looking at the economic calendar, you can see that on Monday we have some red folder events at 3:30 a.m. CPI numbers during the Asia session on the New Zealand dollar. We have more red folder events on Australian dollar and GBP. So they wanted me to cover what I think or what I see on the pound, Aussie and Kiwi. So pound, Aussie and Kiwi. So I'm not only going to go through the pound, GBPUSD, AUDUSD and NZDUSD. I'm also going to go over a couple others that I might see opportunities on, and these may obviously be exotic pairs. So let's start off with the seasonal tendency for the three of them. So I'm not actually going to go over every single seasonal tendency of the currencies that I just went over right now, but we're going to start with the Canadian dollar. We can see that in the month of October, overall we start off bearish. Towards the end of October, say on the last week of October, we see a bullish move on the Canadian dollar and then a fall off the rest of the year. Of course, this is a seasonal tendency and not something that should be taken as something that's written in stone or something. So, but if we are expecting overall lower prices on the Canadian dollar, especially in the last 2 months, it means that we are expecting higher prices on USDCAD. So we should be seeing higher prices on USDCAD going in the next 2 months or so for the remainder of the year. And on the dollar index, yes, we also see the same move, but notice that from the middle of October we start seeing a more weaker push to the downside, and actually we see a rally starting from November. So this would be a nice or an ideal swing trade for USDCAD, since we are expecting higher prices on November and lower prices in November on CAD. Therefore USDCAD should most likely see much higher prices than where it is right now. And then moving on to the pound, we have basically a stagnated move, but more to the upside as well, which does not make any difference for me, because if it doesn't have that much of a move to the upside and the dollar also has a move to the upside during the month of October, then I don't expect these set of events happening this week to affect things too much. And only in the month of November that I see an opportunity, because in the month of November, if you've noticed so far, we see bearish prices on the pound, we see bearish prices on the CAD, and we see bullish prices on the US dollar. So I believe that because of this seasonal tendency differences, we might see a shift in market structure in the month of November, because we know on the chart that we've been rallying this whole time, and I think that sentiment shift might be something to look out for, but so far nothing drastic to me. Of course, on the New Zealand dollar, we have in the month of October nothing special. A rally to the upside, retracement to the end at the end of the month, towards the end of the month. So now let's move on to the charts, starting off with USDCAD. On a high time frame, on a monthly chart, we got a retracement into this inversion fair value gap that I actually had on my charts, because I saw we were falling off aggressively, and I was paying very close attention to see what we would do at that area, and it will make more sense on a lower time frame. So we mark this out as our weekly inversion fair value gap as our high time frame PD array that we just reacted from. Of course, we could have gone deeper and react inside of the BPR, the balance price range, or basically this area of the inversion fair value gap where the BC is residing. So would have been a stronger reaction if it was from here, but that being put aside for now, going down to a lower time frame, or to lower time frames, to look to see if there's anything else that we see. So far I'm seeing is a liquidity sweep there, but it's probably going to be a lot more visible on a lower time frame. On a daily chart, we did not tap into this this buy side imbalance, but again we did react from the weekly inversion fair value gap, which obviously aligns with the daily inversion fair value gap. So we can remove this weekly one to pay more attention to the daily inversion fair value gap. Going down to lower time frames, we can see how we consolidated here from Monday all the way till Thursday. So the whole week we essentially just consolidated until CPI came out. Honestly, I would have liked to see lower prices into this area, especially where the order block is, but we didn't get that, which is still fine to work with, because again, when a move happens, we can always catch it as long as we have not swept buy side in this case, buy side liquidity in this case. So another thing I wanted to note was the SMT divergence between the two, between the two correlated pairs. So we have the US dollar paired with USDCAD. Let's switch down to the 3-hour chart, just like USDCAD. So of course in this case we know that US dollar is the leader, right? So theoretically USDCAD should move the same way the dollar index moves, right? So notice here at these lows, the 10th of October 8 p.m. to the next day, not the next day, the next 2 days, 2 a.m. So the 10th of October, 8 p.m, which is 7 p.m. this side, which is this candle, and then all the way to Thursday, 2 a.m, which is 1 a.m. this side. So notice how on the dollar index we swept liquidity we swept it once, we swept it again, and we swept it yet again, right? But on the dollar CAD, on USD CAD, we failed to sweep liquidity. So USD CAD was essentially telling us the truth, telling us that we are likely to see higher prices from here. The fact that the dollar was sweeping liquidity and it failed to sweep liquidity. So we can qualify this as an SMT divergence with the dollar index. In the same way, we can call this SMT divergence with USDCAD. Actually, let's put this lower so it's a little bit more visible. So because we are looking for higher prices on the dollar, we should be looking for higher prices on USDCAD. So for those that basically want to trade DXY, can trade USDCAD to avoid the spreads and fees that comes with trading DXY. So let's put aside the dollar index for now, so we can focus on the main pair here, which is UCAD. Of course, we've already also established that we're looking for buy side liquidity from the seasonal tendencies, right? So we might see the likelihood of sweeping this buy side liquidity going into December is very high. Well, to me, it's very high. And of course, if we can show willingness to break through that, we might see this buy side liquidity purged next. So, but these are longer term targets. Going back down to the, let's stop at the 4-hour chart quickly. Actually, now that we've established the idea, right, going back to the daily chart, we've established that we are seeing bullishness on UCAD, right? I am paying very close attention to this area, to this daily buy side imbalance, to the extent that I will set an alert on it in the next coming days to see how we react from that area. So let's do that. Of course, this buy side imbalance is aligned with the inversion fair value gap that we have here. So if we don't trade into the BC, I would not be surprised if we ever trade into the inversion fair value gap that we have here, because remember, we have two possibilities on the dollar index. We have the likelihood of us reacting from the volume imbalance, which was a new day opening gap. We have the likelihood of rejecting from here, from this area to the upside, and we have the likelihood of dipping a little bit lower, taking Friday's low before continuing to the upside. So I'm paying attention to those two likelihoods, right? And if that's the case, then I should be expecting a chance of either rejecting from this area or actually sweeping Friday's low to take us back up. That's why I have two alerts set there. Of course, going into the week, my main targets are this buy side liquidity and that buy side liquidity. So USDCAD, I don't really have too much to say about it, but I'm looking for upside. And what would invalidate this idea would be this candlestick's low on the 1 hour chart. I would not like to see us trade to this level at all. So this will be my validation point, possible entries and targets. It's as straightforward as that can be. I'm not looking to trade two currencies with high impact news on the same week, especially not with something like this. Scanning through the other Canadian dollar pairs, none of this was prepared beforehand, so I'm just checking through everything. But I'm expecting higher prices on USDCAD, which might also mean higher prices on anything else with the Canadian dollar, because I'm seeing that we've swept liquidity on most of them. We've swept liquidity, and this might just be a turtle soup to the upside, because looking at GBPUSD, we've also swept liquidity. Looking at NZDUSD, we've definitely swept liquidity, multiple. And we may complete this market maker sell model first before going up, before moving back to the upside, or we could just reverse here, retrace back into the range before coming back down. EuroCAD, where I was, and finally Aussie CAD. AUDCAD, we also swept liquidity and possibly going for this one. So Canadian dollar seems to be building a lot of orders by sweeping sell side liquidity because of the idea that we have from the seasonal tendency that the Canadian dollar is supposed to be gaining strength. So I'm not shocked that it's sweeping so many sell sides so that we can finally go to the opposing liquidity. We sweep sell side for buy side, we sweep buy side for sell side. So that's what I'm thinking, that's what I'm having in mind going into the next quarters, the next portion of the year. So let's move on to AUDCAD, which is the Aussie. Australian dollar, obviously, because I am bullish on the dollar, it means I'm bearish on the foreign currency. So AUDUSD, I'm bearish on this. I've already covered GBPUSD, but I will go over it again. On AUDUSD, I'm looking for the sell side liquidity on the daily chart as my target going into the week. But of course, we have these internal sell side liquidities that we have to clear first. The reason I'm extremely bearish on this was because looking at the daily chart, we can see on Wednesday we made the high of the week. Thursday we got a very deep push to the downside. Why I say this is deep is because compare this to, let's say, GBPUSD, and notice how, yes, we got a push to the downside, but we didn't get as deep as AUDUSD did and NZDUSD, because the Kiwi and the Aussie were extremely bearish after sweeping a previous high on both of them. So, well, this failed to sweep the high, so this was the SMT divergence that could have been used to take this sell. But anyway, going down to the 4-hour chart, I'm very bearish on this, and looking at the 4-hour chart, look, we're already so close to sweeping this sell side, this internal sell side liquidity, that I get the feeling we'll just open and break it. But if we don't break it, if we don't break the sell side liquidity, then I'm paying very close attention to this fair value gap here. I'm paying attention to that as my entry. If I was someone entering with this fair value gap targeting this sell side liquidity, my stop loss is probably going to be here at this swing high, the one that created the fair value gap, because there are 3 candles involved whenever a fair value gap is created, and Michael always teaches us to take it to the 3rd one. Of course, this entry could possibly be narrowed down to a lower time frame like this, like a 30-minute chart. We've already tapped into it actually on a 30 minutes. But if I was taking a 30-minute entry in this area, if I just woke up and I saw we were still here and I sold off, my stop loss would possibly now move to this high instead, because an immediate rebalance happened at this candle. So yeah, but this is of course very short term. If we get a deeper retracement into the range, of course I'm paying attention to the imbalance that was made along the way. If say we continue going higher, then I would look for a sweep in liquidity of Friday's high. This is Friday's high. We could sweep Thursday this candle and then tap into this imbalance here. It's massive sell side imbalance before pushing lower. So I have 2 possibilities, but I'm not sure about this possibility. I'm not sure about us sweeping that high. What could happen is we could open on Monday, sweep the lows, possibly not take out this external liquidity, external low sell side liquidity that we highlighted, and trade back into the range because there's a high impact news. If the news is has enough liquidity injection, we might sweep all these highs and go back into this area, which if we do, that becomes a no-brainer opportunity to take it back down, well, to me. So that's all I'm looking for on the Aussie, and it's very similar structure on Kiwi, on Kiwi as well. Same sell side liquidity targets and the same external sell side liquidity targets from the weekly charts to the daily chart. We have these internal sell side liquidities that have been residing at these areas. So I'm looking at that going into next week. Nothing's too fancy here. The same sort of idea. If we get a high impact news, a red folder event that shoots us to one of these high time frame PDRAs, like the daily inversion fair value gaps, like the 9-hour inversions, like the breakers, and of course any PDRA that Michael teaches, that ICT teaches. So this is what I'm looking for on the Kiwi going into next week. And lastly, we have the pound. I've already covered this on my earlier video, and I'm looking for sell side to be tagged. And I also mentioned that the same with the dollar, the same way that I have two possibilities of us possibly sweeping Friday's high. If we do sweep Friday's high without taking this sell side liquidity, then I'll be looking at the daily inversion fair value gap, which of course I've also highlighted in the video before this one. This daily inversion fair value gap, that's if we don't sweep the sell side first. So if we go up and trade into this, I'm taking it lower with me. If not, then I'm going to look for lower time frame entries like this fair value gap, or 90 minutes PDRAs like this fair value gap. So that's what I'll be looking for going into the week. Yeah, that's all I really have, and I believe the high impact news that will come out for this will probably just take us to our target, if of course it doesn't tap into a PDRA. If it doesn't, if it shoots up and, like for example, sweeps Friday's high, then I'm looking for this daily inversion fair value gap to take us back down. So that's all I'm looking for on the pound. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comment section. I will address them as accurately as I can. If I left anything out, or if more explanation is needed, of course, please do let me know. For now, that's all I have. Good luck and good trading.